All right, so we are dealing with the Constitutional Convention. We looked at the New Jersey plan. We looked at the Virginia plan. You should be able to, if you grabbed a whiteboard or a piece of paper, you should be able to write out exactly what those represent. All right, so what we're dealing with here is the issue of representation. And this was really the key issue at the Constitutional Convention because the question was small states versus large states. Small states wanted to protect their rights. Otherwise, they felt like they could end up just getting owned by the large states and they would become worthless. So let me just read to you a little bit about that. David Brearley of New Jersey said that representation based on population was unfair and unjust. He was one of the delegates from New Jersey. The large states, he said, will carry everything before them, and the small states, like Georgia, will be obliged to throw themselves constantly into the scale of some large one in order to have any weight at all. Back then, Georgia was considered a very small state. So basically saying is like if small states are just going to be ruined, like the only way they're going to have any influence is if they always tag along like a little brother to some big brother, to some big state. Other delegates like James Wilson of Pennsylvania, which was one of the big three, that'd be Virginia, New York, Pennsylvania, argued that only representation based on population would be fair. For New Jersey, with about a third of the population of Pennsylvania, to have the exact same number of votes as Pennsylvania, he actually said at the convention, James Wilson said, I say no, it is unjust. So they both had a point, right? Small states are like, hey, right now we're sovereign. If we have proportional representation, we totally are ruined. Like we're worthless. And then the large states are like, yeah, but if we have one vote per state, like how unfair is that? Like a large state, three times as much population, same vote as a small state. That's just totally unfair. And sometimes it was larger than that. Okay, so with that said, at the Constitutional Convention, it was decided they needed a committee to decide this issue. And so they created what was called the Grand Committee. Unit 1, Card 1-8, the Grand Committee. By the way, that picture there is inside the hall where they held the Constitutional Convention. It's been kind of recreated in Philadelphia to look like it did then. All right. One delegate came from each state, so there were 12. Remember, Rogue Island wasn't there. Ben Franklin was part of the committee. He was a very old man at this point, but was incredibly well respected, and so he's going to be kind of the leader of it. And the issue was to solve the debate on representation. Like, what are they going to do to kind of come up with a compromise? And that by the way, that idea of compromise, that is at the heart of what the Constitution is about. The Constitution is created in a process of compromise. Okay. And sometimes we don't like the compromises that come out of it. And then also the politics that come out of the Constitution, the way it's created with an executive, the legislative branch, the two branches of the executive branch. I mean, the two houses in the legislative branch, those things force, there's a bunch of things here that force compromise. And compromise means that you don't get everything you want. You get some of what you want. The other side gets a little bit of or some of what they want. And then maybe it isn't perfect, but it is a compromise. And this is what they needed to do right here. This is what politics is about, is actually working out some sort of deal that both sides aren't super happy, but both sides aren't ticked off and leaving and ready to go create a revolution. All right, so Roger Sherman of Connecticut delivered the compromise. He came up with the idea. Sometimes it's called the Connecticut Compromise, or it's called the Great Compromise. All right. As a matter of fact, that is our next card. So George Sherman of Connecticut, you can put CONN, by the way, for Connecticut, developed the compromise. All right. Now we're flipping to the next card. So if you need to pause, go ahead and hit pause. All right. Great or Connecticut Compromise. The Great Compromise or the Connecticut Compromise. Unit 1, card 19. All right, go ahead and pause if you need to. Great compromise. All right, first off, here's what the solution was. We're going to have a bicameral legislature that has two houses. First thing, bicameral. So that's actually from the Virginia plan. 2, the lower house, we're going to call it the House of Representatives. The lower house called the House of Representatives. And this is going to be proportional representation, and they're going to be elected by the people. So proportional meaning by population. So Pennsylvania, in our previous quote there, Pennsylvania is going to get a lot more votes than, say, New Jersey, which at the time was a third of its size population-wise. So proportional representation and elected by the people. All right, the upper house will be called the Senate. Will be called the Senate. Each state will get 2. So now we have equal representation. So we have proportional representation in the lower house. Now we have equal representation. Each state has 2. So New Jersey, with a third of the size of Pennsylvania, has the exact same number of representation. So they're using kind of both. This is the compromise here. See, they're using both. Like, we're going to satisfy the small states, but we're also going to satisfy the large states with the lower house. And this is a key function here. Elected by state legislatures. The Senate, originally in the Constitution, was elected by the state legislatures. So we have the people choosing the lower house. We have states choosing the Senate. We'll kind of have a group of people get together as a whole country and elect a president. So you get like 3 different things happening. You get some elite kind of democracy, if you will, with state legislatures or the electoral college, and then you also get some more popular elections by the people in the House. There will be an independent executive and judicial branch. An independent executive and judicial branch. So that actually came from the Virginia plan as well. All right. Debate over slavery we'll come back to. All right, great. That's it for today. That's it for that lesson. And thank you guys very much. Practice, and you're going to have to do some sorting, I'm sure. Thanks.